Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Harwich website at www.harwich-ma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so via recording on demand on the Harwich Channel 18 website or on the Town of Harwich YouTube page. So thank you all for attending. I hope everybody's well. We have a fairly light agenda tonight. The first item is a request for determination of applicability for 387 Oak Street, map 82, parcel K3. It is a proposal for a new septic system installation and tree removal. The representative from the budget here tonight.
Yes, Stan Croto and Katrine Higgins is here. This is a property that Katrine is interested in for herself and her fiance. It's anybody that went to the property, they can see it's a 1950s cottage and has a 1950s septic system. And since then, there's been some environmental regulations put in place. And so we have the main regulations are 50 feet, the health regulation of 50 feet for the tanks from the pond. And then the zoning regulation of 300 feet for the leaching area within the 6 Ponds district. I think the commission has control of the 6 Pond regulations as well as the buffer zone regulations. But either way, our intention is to meet the new regulations for the old cottage. So we're coming out of the cottage by gravity to the septic tanks, which are a little greater than 50 feet away. And we can't go much further away with those because they would get too deep underground as the grade's rising, and the pipe would obviously keep going downhill from the house. So we have them in a good spot, I think. And then just running the pump line down the existing dirt road to a leaching facility, which is 300 feet away. And we did have all that staked out, so anybody that got up to the site saw the plan in place. On top of that, I think you can see the cottage is hanging over the cottage are quite a few large pine trees. One of them has 2 wires holding it up, so the applicants would certainly like the ability to protect the cottage and take down the pine trees within the fall distance. And then we proposing the silt fence prior to construction, of course, and then replanting grass right after construction. With that, I guess I'll just ask for questions for myself and Katrine.
Okay, thank you. Amy, do you have a summary for us?
Sure. The septic as designed meets the regulations of conservation, board of health, and zoning. This is a pretty large lot. It's over 5 acres. Am I correct? Yep.
Yes, 5.25.
5.25. It's on Edie's Pond. It's a heavily treed lot with the exception of immediately around the home and garage. Katrine and I did speak about the tree removal and replacement with trees and shrubs, within the buffer zone, and you seemed amenable to that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Definitely.
There's also one oak tree that's dead that we would add to this they want to add to this for a total of 8 trees to be removed that are hazardous trees. I don't think we need any type of formal planting plan or anything. I would be comfortable conditioning it and working with the applicant on the type and location of plants to be put in. And I would recommend approval with a -3, with the conditions that trees are to be flush cut and not stump ground, and that you're not going to have any fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides within Conservation Commission jurisdiction on the lot.
Thank you, Amy. Is Jim on? I don't think Jim's joined us, has he?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I'll start with you tonight, Jim, the comments.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I don't have any questions on this. It looks like a good plan.
Okay. John, you're up next.
Yeah, I just have one question. Since conservation jurisdiction, I understand in this case, it's 300 feet from the pond edge. So my question is that if we're specifying no herbicides, no fertilizers, whatever, does that extend for 300 feet to the 300-foot boundary?
I would say yes, because the intent of the Six Ponds District is the preservation of water quality. That's one of the main reasons for having the Six Ponds designated as such. So that would be my recommendation.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, John. Ernie, any comments?
No, it's a lovely lot, and are you going to redo the house that's on that, or eventually?
Eventually,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I mean,
nice location.
in the long term, very long term from now.
Yeah. Okay.
We're just really excited for the opportunity to have property.
Yeah, I would think so. At 5 acres, it's gorgeous. But I have no comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ernie. Carolyn, any comments?
No, I have no comments.
Okay, Stan.
No, everything looks fine. I agree with Amy.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none. Any further comments from any folks attending tonight? All right, with that, if one of the commissioners would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for determination of applicability for 387 Oak Street with a -3 determination.
Okay, can we please have a second?
I'll second it. Stan.
Second by Stan. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next, we have a notice of intent for 2261 Head of the Bay Road, map 119, parcel N5. It's a proposal to renovate the dwelling, reconstruct the deck, and install a generator.
Thank you, Brad. David Little from Ryder and Wilcox. Ernie caught me off guard last week with my coverage calculations. Fortunately, I had the time to review them, and they are in fact correct. I think the mistake is the coverage calculations for the purpose of the Conservation Commission include everything: drives, patios, dwelling, walks, etc. And then the coverage calculations on the site plan are for zoning purposes, and it just refers to roof structure. So the numbers do agree with respect to that. And then secondly, I wasn't aware that there wasn't natural gas at the site. So I have included a proposed underground propane tank in the lawn and gravel walk area behind the garage. So that being said, I think we've addressed the outstanding concerns on this, and I'll open it up to questions.
Sorry, I was muted. Do you have any comments for us, Amy?
No.
Teenagers making noise here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm dog sitting a little worried little dog, and I'm trying to mute myself when I can too. No, thank you for the clarification on the coverage, David. And I would recommend approval with the project with our condition of the no chemical application within our jurisdiction. So keep that brief, and I recommend approval with a -3 on this one as well.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Actually, this is a notice of intent.
Oh my goodness. You are correct. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Didn't make
We
it
have
on memory like
We've
that.
got Amy's approval all the same. All right, well, let me start with Jim, if you have any comments.
Yeah, I don't have any comments on this one either.
Okay, John?
No, I don't have any comments either.
Ernie?
So Dave, just to be clear, the coverage calculations shown on the plan that we have show existing being 3,071 square feet, proposed being 3,326 square feet. Those are the numbers we have to look at, right?
Those are the numbers for zoning, Ernie, for building coverage calculations. The coverage calculation sketch I showed you, if you look at the numbers for the proposed and existing dwelling within your jurisdiction, they agree with those, but the coverage calculations for the purposes of determining mitigation included patios, walks, etc., which go beyond the roofed area coverage calculations on the site plan.
So do we have anything that shows what those numbers are?
Yeah, I provided coverage calculation plans with the packets. I detailed coverage calculations plan, 0 to 50 foot buffer, 50 to 100 foot buffer, and AC/EC boundary.
Did we get those, Amy?
Sorry about that. David, it's on the site plan that you gave us?
I gave you two site plans, the site plan and then also coverage calculation to come up with a proposed mitigation.
Sorry about that. That piece may not have been on the packet. I have it and I did review it and I found your numbers to be correct. I'm sorry if that didn't make it into your Dropbox, folks. That is on me. But
I can see Caroline has it. She's looking at it.
These are, this is the packet from last week, 2 weeks ago.
That's correct. They weren't changed.
It didn't change, correct.
Yeah, so that was in last week's packet.
The confusion of whether you were looking at the numbers for zoning or conservation. So the coverage plan, the coverage calculation plan is the same as the one from last week.
Can you just give us those numbers, Amy? What are they?
Yes, they're not clear actually on it.
So within the 0 to 50 foot buffer, existing is 2,746 square feet. Proposed is 2,608 square feet with a net decrease of 138 square feet. Then in the 50 to 100 foot buffer, you have an existing 4,057 square feet, a proposed 4,115 square feet with a net increase of 58 square feet. So overall, you have a net decrease, but they're still providing mitigation for the increase essentially in the 50 to 100.
It almost a 3-to-1 ratio.
Right. So even though they have a net decrease to begin with, they're still offering some plantings. And I agree with the plantings. I think, yes, they are a little bit, they're a lot of flowers, but I do think that kind of herbaceous, flowering layer is kind of missing on that site. And we would just have to condition that it does not become a part of the manicured site and it's just left to naturalize, which we can condition.
Okay, that's fine. I don't see those numbers in the stuff that we have here, but if you're comfortable with them, then that's fine with me, Amy. I'm okay.
All right, thanks, Ernie. Carolyn?
I have one question about the propane tank, and my apologies, I cannot remember if this was discussed 2 weeks ago. Is it normal to bury a propane tank? My mind is going back to regulations on oil tanks, and first you couldn't have it in the house, and then you had to have it outside, but you could bury it, and then you couldn't bury it, you had to dig it up and put it someplace else. I'm surprised to see a propane tank being buried.
It's very common to bury a propane tank. One of the reasons that I showed the setbacks on the plan of 10 feet to the building and over 10 feet to the property line is that's a building code requirement for buried propane tanks. But yes, they're commonly installed. And we will be able to install it by going around the side of where the renovation work is occurring and not go into the 50-foot buffer to the wetland to the northwest at all.
Okay, so Amy, you're comfortable with a propane tank buried there?
We don't have any regulation prohibiting it, so yes.
David, those tanks now, are they fiberglass or are they steel?
No, they're double-hulled steel.
Okay. So they have a lifespan too.
We got the specs. We got the specs from Snow's Home and Heating, and they provided us the dimensions, and they will be the people that'll be maintaining it.
Okay. What's the lifespan on one of those?
I do not know.
Sorry, I don't mean to throw more questions at you, but
No, they're
just be
important.
interesting to know. Carol, I'm sorry.
No, I think they're important questions coming from a person who had to dig up a buried oil tank.
Been there.
Well, I think the difference between oil and propane is that propane is a gas, and it would escape into the atmosphere. It's given a pungent odor, so you can smell it when it does go into the atmosphere. Oil, on the other hand, would go into the ground and could damage the aquifer. So I don't believe this should be a concern.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Stan, you're up.
No, I'm all set. No questions.
Okay. Any comments from members of the audience? All right, any further comments on this project? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion from one of the commissioners.
I'll move to approve the notice of intent for 2261 Head of the Bay Road.
Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Ernie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
It's unanimous approval. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night. Okay, next we have, I think, 3 consecutive continuances, so I'm going to read them off and move fairly quickly. The first is for 46 Indian Trail, map 34, parcel K3-2, proposal for new dwelling with appurtenances. The applicant would like to continue until August 19th, 2020, and I move that we grant that continuance. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes unanimously. Okay, next up, we have a notice of intent for 7 Sketchaconnet Way, map 4, parcel C14, proposal for a pier, ramp, and float on the Herring River. The applicant has asked for a continuance until August 5th, 2020, and I move that we grant that. Have a second. Seconded by Stan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Amy, there's really no reason to ask for comments or anything on these.
No, we actually can't take comments because.
That's what I thought. Yep. So, all right, then I guess no one minds if I just fly through these. Okay, the third is a notice of intent for 14 Mill Point Road, map 1, parcel J1-94, a proposal for a pier, ramp, and float on the Herring River. and the applicant is asked to continue until August 5th, 2020, and I move that we grant that continuance. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, that covers the notice of intent. Next, we have an extension request for 56 Permaqueen Lane, map 24, parcel H12, proposal for a new dwelling.
Hi there. Do you want me to speak to it, or would you like Lynn Hanlon just to speak to the extension request? Sometimes I do it, sometimes you're the applicant.
Yeah, I think you've supplied us with a fair amount of email information, Amy, so it's up to you guys. I think most of the members have a pretty good sense of where we are, but I think if Lynn wants to open with a brief description, then you could follow up with any summary comments that you have, Amy. That'd be fine.
Sure. Can't hear you, Lynn.
You're muted, Lynn.
Now can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry. I'll be looking forward to actually seeing you someday. Thanks to Amy and other conservation administrators, actually it was pointed out to me that the regulations specifically address this situation that Mr. Orsini is in Wetlands Regulation 310 CMR 1005 8B1, where they actually more or less obligate a commission to approve an extension permit when an applicant has an unavoidable delay, such as an appeal, obtaining other necessary permits. So what that does is it recognizes the burden and predicament that the applicant would be in if he's waiting for multiple appeals or another appeal to resolve itself. Meanwhile, a permit is expiring. What has to happen is everything has to stay in place. You can't have a moving target. So it preserves his approval. It preserves his plan. It acts as a stay so that the other processes can play out. And I think Amy and I are on the same page. And we talked about how you might craft an extension permit. And I'll just let Amy, I don't think anything's changed since our conversation. Okay, then I'll keep it short.
All right, thank you. Anything further, Amy?
Just to also state that in addition to the CMR, that there's a permit tolling per Governor Baker's, one of his orders regarding projects that were active within basically as of March 10th, 2020, which this project was. So, and that means that any project that was active remains to be active until the state of emergency is terminated. We don't know when that will be. So that's in addition. After the meeting that we had, I have about once a month, we have a meeting, all the conservation administrators on the Cape. And we tend to talk about things that are kind of puzzling us. And I brought this up and it was brought to my attention, which is a good thing. You know, hidden in the CMRs is this note, which I wasn't aware of. And I think it's just, I mean, it just shows that you think you know the regulations inside and out. And I think even Lynn said, you know, Lynn's been doing this for a lot longer than I have and wasn't aware of this thing. So the original request was for 3 years, but given the nature of COVID plus the nature of how an appeal can go, how long appeals can go, instead of granting a 3-year extension as requested, my suggestion, and I will run it by council before it gets issued, is to issue the extension with a cover letter wording it as to become part of the record at the registry, that the permit is to remain active or is extended until 1 year past the end of the culmination of the appeal or the lifting of the state of emergency for COVID, whichever is later.
The only thing that makes me just a little nervous, and I can cover it on my end, is, you know, I shudder to think anything's going to last 3 years, either COVID or this appeal. But if this, for instance, went into a 4th year, I would be uncomfortable that the regulations only allow for a 3-year extension. So I would just ask, I hope we're not there, I hope this is all done and gone, that at the end of 3 years, I might come back just to not have another administrative problem. But I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate it.
We're allowed to issue up to 5-year a 5-year extension.
You are? I missed that too. Okay. Then that's fine.
It is the commission's purview if you want to go. I mean, by law, it seems we have to issue them an extension. It is up to you if you want to do the 3-year as was requested, or if you want to craft it to the language that I mentioned for you. Either of those would work.
Okay. All right, thank you both. I'll start for comments from the commissioners from Jim.
Yeah, I just want to focus on the substance of this proposal for a minute. I'm not sure how it was ever approved in the first place, but, you know, we're talking about the complete destruction of a nearly 5,000 square foot forested wetland, not on a degraded site, a fairly pristine site, no invasive species. We have no mitigation proposed, no replication of the wetland proposed. The project in no way is even close to meeting our regulations. So I'm certainly not in favor of this going forward. I would propose that the commission do whatever we can to try and prevent this wetland from being destroyed. And if we legally must issue an extension, I suggest it would be as short as possible. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Ernie?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong button. I'm coming back here in just a minute. Yeah, Jim, to your point, the purpose of this discussion is to discuss the extension. Twice the commission has approved this particular lot as developable. And, you know, it's not our charge here tonight, or even at the end of this extension, to discuss whether or not we want to reverse those decisions that have already been made on this particular parcel. I think we need to restrict our discussion strictly to whether or not we want to grant an extension. And under Amy's comments, you know, we're sort of committed to giving him at least 1 year, which I'm in favor of, strictly because of the amount of time that's passed since this thing was originally approved 14 years ago, something like that. And it's not been built on it up until this time. We sort of reinforced that approval a couple of years ago, and now we're faced with an extension. So I'm fine with a 1 year extension, but I don't think this discussion should in any way cover the approvals that have already been granted in the past, or whether or not we're going to reapprove this land under any form or fashion going forward.
All right, thanks, Ernie. John, any comments?
Yeah, I guess I'm in favor of issuing the shortest reasonable extension that we can. And I understand Jim's concerns, and I think it's good, regardless of what our constraints are at this point, to clearly articulate those concerns so everybody can hear them. And we have to keep these things in mind going forward.
All right, thank you. Carolyn?
Well, I agree with everything that Ernie said. This has been approved twice, as a matter of fact. So I think that's not the issue here. The administrative delays have been annoying, and now all our problems today are really annoying. I think we have to give an extension based on the later date of lifting the emergency or the end of the solution of the appeal. I would be more in favor of a 2-year extension. I'm not in favor of 3, but I'd be more in favor of a 2-year extension. We would not be favorable to give another extension. I don't think it'd pass any which way. So therefore, I'd like to give him enough time to handle it efficiently to his benefit. So I would be in favor of a 2-year extension.
May I ask a question for clarification? So are you stating, and also this goes for Ernie, who said 1 year, do you mean 1 year from today or 2 years from today? Or do you mean after the appeal has ceased, 2 years beyond that, or 1 year beyond that? I'm just asking for clarification.
I mean 2 years after the appeal has ceased or the emergency decree has been lifted. They're requesting 3 years. We've talked about 1, and I would be in favor of 2.
Well, what they're requesting is just a blanket 3 years, not having to deal with, that's how the request came in, was they didn't say, 3 years after the appeal ceased. They just said 3 years. I was the one who had made that caveat, essentially, that it was a certain time after the appeal had ceased. And the reason I suggested that is because I'm thinking down the line, after the appeal is over, if they're victorious, if the commission, my sense from just doing this for 14 years is that if you were to grant them less than a year, it could be something that, but if it ever came to litigation, you don't want I don't want the commission to be seen as, by the eyes of any courts, as unfair to giving them not enough time. So 1 year is, I think, a reasonable amount of time if they were to get a house constructed. With the other permits that they're still going to have to get. So that's why I suggested that. If you wanted to go more, that's fine. But I would suggest that 1 year would be the minimum. Past that.
Just to be clear, Amy. So I mean, my expectation is the tolling would start either at the end of the appeal with the ZBA or the end of the emergency order, whichever comes later.
Correct. Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
That's fine. Yep.
Okay. Stan?
Yeah, I agree also with Ernie 100%. Again, we can't keep second guessing, what a previous commission did that was approved, and that's it. We're not re-looking at it at this point. Lynn, I guess I was just concerned when you were a little bit concerned mentioning the 3 years before. Did you understand we were talking 1 year from the latest date, either the...
Yeah, but apparently Amy knows, I just didn't see it in the regs that you can extend up to 5 years, so that would take care of the problem. I mean, and I could always just file, it's not a problem. And I'm on the same page as Amy. 1 or 3 years after the end of the appeal period is great. If you wanted to give them 2, even better. I'm not gonna disagree with you. But Amy and I talked about 1.
Because I guess my feeling is that whenever this finishes, either the appeal or the state of emergency, this person's been working on this for what I hear X number of years. He ought to be ready to go with whatever he's ready to build. So I'd be...
Davenport, he has a purchase and sale. So that's why the plan can't change. There's a contract involved. So they're ready to go as soon as they get all the permit in place. Right.
So I would feel, I think, comfortable with the 1 year should be enough time for anybody to complete any project after the end of the later, either the appeal or the state of emergency. So I'd be in favor of the 1 year.
I just did a construction project at my house, and I won't go into it, but there's lots of things that happen that you have time.
So that's all I have.
All right, thanks, everybody. All right, well, I think our purview is fairly clear. I respect Ernie's comments. I think my comments are much more aligned with Jim's. You know, the activity in this lot, I think should be revisited under our present existing regulations. And I was around for the last approval, and I'm just disappointed that the commission decided to go that route on this particular lot. So I have great concerns about the process, but we do need to vote on the extension tonight, so we will. And I do favor just a single year if it were to go forward. So any comments from the audience? Any further comments from anyone attending tonight? Okay, would a commissioner like to make a motion?
Yeah, Brad, I'll make a motion that we approve the order of conditions. Is this an order of conditions?
It's an extension request.
All right. Approve the extension request for 1 year past the resolution of their pending appeal with the ZBA or the lifting of the state of emergency, whichever is later.
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Stan. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, we have 4 ayes. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay, I'm opposed. So the motion passes 4-2.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on, I guess we have 2 order of conditions to work on.
I had a question on the Neil Road. Are we only approving the amended order of conditions? Is that the only thing we're looking at?
Yes, the amended special conditions.
We can't discuss the special conditions.
You've already voted to approve those.
Thank you.
I do have to say, I apologize. When I originally wrote these, if you looked at them very early on, when I added them, there was, I don't know what I was thinking, but the sand nourishment was there. I talked about it below mean high water, and then I don't know how I missed it, but obviously we didn't grant nourishment below mean high water and just granted the groin work. So I did fix that. Hopefully you saw that. Yeah. So yes, it is just the amended special conditions that you're reviewing tonight. Even though they're not doing nourishment below mean high water, I still thought benchmarks would be beneficial to have going forward to monitor, to be able to monitor elevations in the intertidal area to see what we're losing or gaining there. So that's number 7.
How would those benchmarks be selected, Amy?
It'd be something I would chat about at the pre-construction meeting with the engineer. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in these matters.
Yeah, I think, you know, the dune face is a little bit volatile.
Yes.
But I suppose you could put something into the jetty.
That was my thought. I mean, that could move too. I mean, if we get a massive hurricane or just over time, that can move. But
well, that was one of my questions when they were first talking about this, is how they were claiming that the jetties that are those 2 groins are still in the same place they were. when they were built, which that seems like a bold statement to me, I guess, to be so certain that those things haven't settled significantly into the sand. So I wonder about benchmarks that are built on the jetty, how we know how stable they are. How do you even know?
There is a benchmark actually out in the road. There's a benchmark that they shot all this off of. So that's
I see. So would all be referred back to that?
It could be that, or if there's a way that we could do one that, barring massive, hurricanes that are going to move these boulders or just time. I mean, after a certain amount of time, the benchmark probably wouldn't be accurate anyways, but for 5-10 years, hopefully it would.
Any other comments on the order?
Hey, Amy, I have a question for you. So based on the current extension that's mandated under the order, under the emergency, what are we calling it? State of emergency. If we date these things currently and they run based on the current date that we approve them, is that appropriate, or should they be effective as of the end of the state of emergency?
I would say now. I mean, they want to start the work. A lot of times they want to start work now. This one not in particular during the summer season, but I would say it would start now. And sometimes what you see is after a situation, you may see in a year or two after the state of emergency, the government may come out with another document stating that these permits that were active during this time, if it was an economically devastating time like 2008 to 2010, what they did then was they gave automatic extensions to those permits for an additional 2 years. So I don't think you need to worry about it now. I think, then they want to do it. I know they want to do this project this winter. But I would say, you would issue it now. It would become effective, tonight for 3 years. And in the future, depending on the economic outfall and how long this COVID's going to go on, the governor may decide to extend that. But I don't think you need to worry about it for tonight. I just need to get up for a second, but I can hear you, so go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we're ready for a motion on 6 and 10 Neal Road.
Well, let me just follow up on that question. So would we be, assuming that these things are good for, 3 years? Amy? Thanks.
Yes, sorry, I had a little dog who needed to go outside.
Yeah, sorry. All right. So assuming these are good for 3 years, should we put a provision in the order of conditions that says they shall be automatically extended for whatever period between the current date that they were issued and the end of the emergencies, the state of emergency?
I would say no. I think that will be determined in the future. I don't think that's our purview to do right now. It's a 3-year permit. There's nothing being said that we need to offer, that we need to extend it longer than that.
My only concern is that 3 years from now, nobody's going to remember when this was issued, or they won't even address any sort of an extension at that point.
Actually,
yeah, it's all documented.
In the amended order of conditions, number 12, says this order of conditions shall expire on January 15, 2023.
Correct.
So it's 3 years. It's only 2.5.
Right. So they're gonna, right, because the original, I forgot, this is an amendment. So the original order was issued in January of this year. So it's, the amendment doesn't add on any time to it. So it still has the same expiration date. I'd recommend just sticking with the same expiration date.
All right. Okay.
So I'm sorry, Ernie, but I don't quite understand what your concern is even, that somehow the COVID thing is going to get in the way of them doing this at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, the governor seems to feel that any existing orders or approvals or anything else that's out there right now are automatically extended until the end of the state of emergency. So there must be some implication in that edict that work can't take place during the state of emergency. Otherwise, why extend it? So by extension of that, I'm thinking, is it beholden on us to add to the 3-year period a tolling period for whatever this state of emergency continues to exist? It's just a question. If everybody's comfortable with leaving it as it is, that's fine with me. But 3 years from now, somebody comes back to us and says, I couldn't get it done. I need another 6 months. And, they wasted that on the front end because they couldn't find contractors that would get together without masks. What can I say? That's all.
I'm not concerned about that, just for myself.
I think some of these problems are easier to solve in hindsight than prospective.
Okay, that's fine. I'm all right with that.
All right, I'm going to move that we approve the order of conditions for 6 and 10 Neal Road. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right.
Okay. Next, we have 397 Route 28, order of conditions.
I made some slight edits yesterday on this, but pretty much it's stayed the same. And I do know the applicant is on the line here. So if we approve the project, we close the public hearing, but if you had any questions related to the conditions, you could ask that.
No, I think we're good with what is there. So I think that works just fine.
That's the applicant, Jeff Lang. They requested a copy of my draft. I gave it to them.
All right, any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, one question for you, Amy. Number 12 in the special conditions. AUL is what?
Of course, it's the an acronym that's not coming to mind right now. It's basically an AUL, the contaminated site or the contaminated area.
Maybe you want to use get rid of the acronym and just.
I can change it. I thought I had put it somewhere.
Number 4, it's all the way in it.
Oh, is that where it is?
It's 4 and 12.
Oh, it's not described. I can spell it.
Yeah.
I'll spell out what that is. It's not a problem.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments on the order?
done.
Someone would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 397 Main Street.
Okay, do you have a second, please?
Second.
All right, seconded by Ernie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right. Looking forward to seeing how that one goes. It should be interesting. All right, we've got 2 sets of minutes. I wasn't there for the May 21st, so I have no comments on that one.
Amy, on the first one, yeah, I don't know what date it is, February 19th. In the first section on talking about the RDA for Sequatum Road.
Hang on
In the
one second.
last-
Let me open it.
All
I
right.
didn't do a paper copy. So February, it really is February 19th, not February 5th. I had February 5th on my site summary.
Oh, yeah, February 19th.
Not a huge deal. Go ahead.
Just put a comment, and the last sentence talks about the stone from the previous stairs need to be removed and the area is unstable. And if the area is unstable, comma, matting and more planting shall be placed.
Got it.
The only thing I saw on that.
Okay. I have both sets. If there's any comments on either set of minutes, let me know.
I have one minor typo on the February 5th. Page 2, 21 Deacon's Folly, 4th line down.
Okay.
There's just an extra word in there. Now I'm not finding it. Yeah, right. Around the perimeter for to catch runoff. To catch runoff?
Yeah.
Yes.
No 4.
Couple minor typos on February 5th under 510 Pleasant Lake Ave.
Hang on one sec. Let me get
Yep.
Where is that? I'm not seeing 510 Pleasant Lake Ave on February 19th.
February 5th, sorry.
Oh, well, it actually is the 19th.
Oh, okay.
But
Right,
I'm not
let me-
seeing Pleasant Lake Ave.
I got it from Nick via email, reviewed it this afternoon.
Uh-oh.
I can,
The file name says February 5th, but the title says February 19th.
Okay. Still trying to find 510 Pleasant Lake Ave. So regardless of the date here.
okay, well, if it's not there, then the 2 typos don't matter.
Well, we got another problem then.
Yeah, we have an issue with dates.
I don't see it.
Well, what are Brad's minutes? Are they the 5th or the 19th?
I don't know.
I'm gonna bring them up now.
Yeah, my first hearing for that night, Brad, is an RDA for Beth Windmill.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick sent them to me, and I really should be just get on the same page and use Dropbox, but it was there in front of me, so I reviewed that one. And
Okay. I don't see 510 Pleasant Lake Avenue on the February meeting that I have in Dropbox. There's a chance we may have finished another set already and accidentally emailed you that one.
yeah,
But I'm not seeing 510 Pleasant Lake Ave on this.
We're looking at February 19. Possibly Nikki sent him February 5th.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. We'll get to the bottom of that tomorrow, Brad. I'll ask Nikki about that.
yes, that's probably exactly what it is. And either way, it's a couple minor typos we'll pick up at the next time, so that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Are you certain that these actual minutes are actually for February 19th?
I'm gonna definitely check that tomorrow. I'll review the tape and make sure we got the right dates. I apologize.
I'd say we review what we have and approve what we have, and then if there's a discrepancy, you can correct it at that time, I guess. Yeah, okay.
Amy?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the size of a regulatable wetland was changed from 3,000 square feet to 500? That's correct?
Well, it hasn't been yet, but that's proposed for town meeting.
Okay, got it.
Sorry, somebody's asking to come back in the house. I will be right back before they make the neighbors upset.
Yeah, I just opened it up. It is February 5th that Nikki sent me, so it sounds like Dropbox has the 19th. I have the... Wait a minute. No, it's the file is listed as the 5th, but it is the 19th.
Then where is 510 Pleasant Lake Avenue?
Hold on, let me... I don't see it. I wonder if it's on the 21st, and I just made a mistake. And
Yeah, I got that one too.
May 21st.
It is on the 21st.
Oh, it is? Okay. I thought I skipped over. That's my fault. I thought I skipped over that because I wasn't there. So, let's see.
Right, the 19th, you weren't there.
Right. Okay. So there's two minor typos there. The first sentence, the homeowner removed trees. Got to put an R there. Does that show up on yours?
No, I have an R with trees.
Oh, no kidding. Then I guess my version just must have not been polished. And then the last sentence, it says the docks stored off of the beach. And I think it's probably correct just to say off the beach. You don't need the of. And but it sounds like the typo I have. I don't have an R in front of in removed. So okay, well,
Got it.
I better get in the same page and just use Dropbox.
I'm glad we figured that out.
Yeah. All right. Do you need a vote on these two?
Yeah, you can do them simultaneously if you want. Just make sure you say February 19th.
Yes. Okay. I move that we approve. Yes.
Hey, Brad, there are some comments on the second one, I think.
I have a question.
Okay, we're not done with the 19th yet.
No, I have a question on the 19th because under public hearing, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing. The commission discussed adding an entry fee. The commission will revise the bylaw to not include a buffer zone to the flood zone. It was clarified the size of a regulatory wetland was changed. It sounds like we did it all.
Yeah, I'll change it. I see what you mean.
Thank you. Those are all proposed changes, right?
Yeah, it's proposed. I'm not going to, instead of saying was changed, I'm saying is proposed to change.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep, and the motion does cover that as well.
Okay.
So Amy, the other comment I had was on the May 21st meeting minutes.
Okay.
At the end of it, where you talk on the management plan for the bogs at the Bells Neck Conservation Area,
Mm-hmm.
the last paragraph under that, all of a sudden switches over to concrete barricades or flags placed in the Robbins Pond area.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole different, yeah.
Got
You're
it.
missing something in there. Yeah.
I'm going to put a new topic, Robbins Pond. Okay. Got it.
Good.
Okay. Anything else for the minutes?
Not for me.
No.
All right, well, I move that we accept the minutes for May 21st, 2020 and February 19th, 2020.
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to discussion. Does anybody have anything new on the Bells Neck Bog management plan? I do plan to submit my updated information and text by the end of next week, so we can review it for the following meeting.
I just put it on in case there was any little thing we wanted to chat about, because I knew we were going to have a light agenda this time. So Nikki and I, whenever you're ready to send it over, just we're ready to help you hammer it out and create a cumulative draft for our next meeting.
Excellent.
So the commission knows I am here next week, but I am not here the week after. So just make sure you copy, if whoever sends stuff to me, make sure you copy Nikki on it too.
Okay. So for the hearing, oh no, is it 2 weeks without a hearing?
It's a 5-week month or 5 Wednesday months. So the next meeting is not till August 5th. It's 3 weeks in between.
All right, that'll give us time to review everything, I think.
Yeah.
Just a question, Amy. I noticed the mowing seemed to have been done the way we talked about. Did DPW actually get over there to do it, or was it just the?
No, DPW is taking it over.
Okay. Yeah, it looked good. It looked good. That was a positive development.
Yeah. Went down there with them, explained what we wanted done, and they did it. And we'll just have to kind of make sure that it, they don't need to do it every week or every 2 weeks like they mow everything. So I told them that we want it to be, once a month or a little bit longer than that, but we'll just have to keep an eye on that. But I thought that they moved it to the good location too.
Hey, Amy, question for you. One of the prior discussions, there was talk about harvesting the vines in those bogs, and you said that we need to have an RFP in order to do that. Where are we with that?
Well, because the commission is still looking at a couple alternatives for a land management plan, you haven't made a concrete decision. I didn't draft an RFP because there is a chance that one of the options is keeping some releasing some of those bogs. That's what I took from it, that if the commission was not going to, after discussion about these alternatives for the management plan, if you weren't going to release the bogs, that we would talk about letting a grower harvest the vines.
is there a, is time of the element here as far as harvesting or anything?
I'm not the person really to ask for that. I mean, there are in the area that Mr. Hall suggested harvesting the vines from, there's still a fair bit. There's a lot of vines there. So,
Okay, so we have time then.
yeah.
Okay.
So my understanding of the process was they're not uprooting all the vines, they're cutting vines and replanting the cut vines, so there will be vines remaining as well. Is that not correct?
It would. I just don't know what the if you were to decide to release them, say you allow them to cut, somebody allowed them to cut this year. If for some chance the commission wanted to release something, I'm not a cranberry expert, does the cuttings compromise the existing plants for a year or two to make that yield potentially less the first year or two? I would just caution against letting anybody kind of do anything prior to making a decision on what you want to do with the land.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I guess if you want to continue on with the rest of the updates that are listed on the agenda, Amy.
Sure. Getting towards the end of pullover season, which is very exciting. We're going to have a lot more time, and I'm sure my lovely volunteers, Ernie, included in that, will enjoy sleeping in a little bit later on some days. Actually, you're pretty lucky, Ernie. You have one of the later shifts.
Yeah.
So we have, within the next week, we're looking at both Red River and Bank Street to fledge, which is great. I'll probably ask a few of you to help me remove the fencing, because once they fly, we can take the fencing down. We still have 4 babies at Bank Street, which is amazing. And I checked them today and they're flapping their wings. They're getting ready to try them out. Red River is a little bit behind, even though they were born before them. They're a little bit smaller, so they might be hanging out for another week or two. But we had a really successful year this year. Last year, we only fledged, and through no fault that we could find of our own doing, we only fledged 1 chick off town land last year. We have already fledged 3 at Red River. We look like we're going to fledge another 2 and a 4, hopefully 4 at Bank Street, in addition to what Audubon has over at Witchmere and Belmont. So it's been a very good year.
Great.
So that's what I have for that. And just to let you know, the trust and the town are going to partner. The trust reached out to me, to be honest, to do trail work days. I sent you emails about it. July 20th and August 4th. It's going to be 2 hours of trail work. If you're interested in anything, I sent you the email to sign up. We can only have a maximum of 10 people on each of those days because of COVID, but we are not full yet. July 28th is the week that I'm not going to be here, but I'm going to try to do August 4th. And I did want to let you know something about violations if you have a minute and you want to hear about it.
Sure.
Okay. So, starting with 51 Dunes Road, this was the cutting of the 30-odd pine trees. I met with him out there. I think I had told you that. I had staked out with him where the trees should go and the shrubs. He had to do 31 trees and 31 shrubs. The association representative was actually there too when we did that, and found the locations for that. So, and I'd said you could go out if you wanted to. He wants to plant like right now, and I cautioned him against that because it is July and he's planting in a dune. It's a pretty harsh environment. He does have He's going to have some drip irrigation running from his house to do that. But I said, even in that, even with irrigation, it's a really tough time to plant. I think he's already ordered the supplies, however. And I told him, I said, if they don't make it, you just have to replant them. He has, so, hopefully that works for you guys. We'll keep an eye on it. And, the plantings were really well spaced out. The shrubs were clumped, to create colonies, but the plants in general were really spaced out pretty well throughout that dune field. I was happy with. I didn't think that they would like it because it might block some of their view again, but that's not our purview. So that's that one. It actually seems like.
So, Amy, did we not put any restrictions on planting time in the order of conditions?
We said it was to be done by the fall. It had to be done by November 1st.
So that's something to keep in mind in the future, perhaps, is to explicitly prohibit planting under such condition.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to plant end of June to end of August, really. Those are bad times. But I told him, I said, if you don't get a 90% survival rate, then you're going to have to spend more money and replant these. And he said, I know. So, but it's good that I guess they're acting on this because our other ones are not so much. I wanted to know that sent letters out to 422 Main Street and the property on Riverside. Remember you had said at the last meeting you wanted to give them 45 days and to get a planting plan in, and we didn't. So I reached out to their representative, Mark Burgess, and he said it's all on him. He's wicked backed up. He has the site plans, but he doesn't have he hasn't put the planting plans together yet. So he said it was all his fault. I said, well, we really want to see that area. We want to see the plans, approve the plans, and get these areas replanted and fixed this fall. Like, this cannot wait until next year. It's already been almost a year. And he assured me they would, but if you would like to send an encouragement letter on behalf of the commission, I would be happy to do that for you.
I think that's a good idea. We might be overwhelmed, but something is getting done first, and our project should be important.
They're violations. They are, very important. And
do we have the ability to impose fines if they're not done in a X period of time?
We had already told them to supply them within 45 days, which they didn't. We could give them a deadline of August 5th for at least draft submittal of plans. That's 3 weeks from now. And if they don't do it, you can, I'm fine with imposing fines.
Yeah, I think that's the kick that they need, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And a draft could be of various quality and stages. I mean, we want something that's pretty close to finished.
Yeah, I mean, if they already have the site plan, it's kind of like, just give me the site plan, give us the site plan, and we can help come up. I just want to see something get done this fall out there, particularly at 422 Main. That was pretty bad. So, I mean, it doesn't, typically with replanting plans, they take a site plan and just hand sketch on there where things are going to be, and that would be fine. It doesn't need to be, computerized. As long as it was neat, I think that would be fine. But I would recommend that you send them a letter saying, we need something by August 5th.
Or you will be fined daily.
That's up to you.
That's a tough one. That's too tough, actually.
Fine, because I mean, I have an email from the representative specifically stating it's his fault that there's been a delay. And he told me I could tell you that. I don't.
That's not a mitigator, right?
No.
I don't care if it's Mark's. No, I don't care if it's Mark's fault or the owner's.
No, he doesn't get any preferential treatment.
No.
Well, no, I'm saying, but who would you want me to find? We can talk about that.
Find them both.
I mean, our fines generally go to the property owner, I thought.
I think our fines still go to the property owner. We've talked about contract, but I don't think we put anything in place. So his client will be fined.
Yeah.
Which
that sends a pretty strong message on prioritization.
Okay. Sounds fine to me. Just wanted some clarity from you and I got it. So we had a very productive meeting at Robbins. Well, I think it was productive at Robbins Pond Conservation Area. I'm jumping out to something else now. With DPW, police and fire and myself. Jim had given me some comments that I relayed to them. And they did say that they were going to have more patrols go through there. And I've actually heard from a couple people in the neighborhood saying that they've noticed that there's been more cops going through that road. Barricades were reinforced, or more barricades were installed, and we're going to be I have one camera that can now go up, and police says they have another camera. So I'm going to try to curb some of this illegal use down there.
That's great, Amy. Thank you so much for that effort.
No problem. We still don't know yet. So I just had a meeting with the town administrator, our department head meeting with the town administrator today. And one of the questions that came up is for town meeting in September, which we're proposing to have a town meeting in September, is that going to be a full warrant like we would normally see, a large warrant, or is this going to be a pared down warrant for financial items? And we don't know that yet. So we have a couple of things for town meeting. We have a CPC article for $20,000 that would really help with some of these measures to keep people out the gates that we were talking about. And so that is a potential for hopefully it'll be a full town meeting and we can do that. And also hopefully our bylaw changes can get on as well. So, I mean, if it seems like we're going to go kind of more bare bones for a town meeting, I'll make it a point to try to get our things on there too. That's all I got for you.
Amy, we're talking enforcement. Where's Lathrop?
I have not heard anything more from town council on that. I've heard that we're pursuing it, but I don't know what.
Well, let's get new council on this. This is getting ridiculous. I mean, Brad's put time in meeting with their council. I've done meetings with their council. I mean, this is years and years and years now that we've been screwing around with this guy and nobody can get this thing moved. What's going on? It doesn't make sense. Is council doing anything?
What I told her last time was the commission, wanted to see more action on this, that we're done negotiating because it's not getting anywhere. And she said she has notified their attorney that we're pursuing things. But other than that, I haven't heard of any new information. I do think that COVID has played a role. I mean, the courts aren't really meeting right now, but I'll get some more correspondence, but I can't answer those questions for you.
Well, I mean, I've dealt with attorneys all during this COVID stuff on other things on a personal basis. They're working. So, the idea that we can't use a COVID excuse. I'm sorry. That just doesn't
Well, I just
happen.
meant like actually having a trial or something or a hearing. That's what I meant by that. But
We can't even get a status.
right, I completely understand.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot, going on at town hall, and so it's possible it could be not the priority that might be otherwise. But I think one thing we could do is send a commission letter. I mean, if you want to, craft a simple paragraph that expresses our concern with the status, I'd be happy to sign that letter. And so that's one thing we can do. I don't think. There's a limit to, what you can push by email. And I do think that, all forms of government, that they have to shuffle their priorities right now. And this happens. So, but that's the one thing we can do. The second thing we could do is if anything comes up for that property again, I think we could talk about a different fine approach, have that discussion in a public hearing. So what do you think of those two concepts, Amy? One is really just hypothetical.
I like the letter. I like the letter, and I'm happy to help Ernie draft it and send it off to you all for review. I would recommend you would copy the Board of Selectmen on it as well.
Yep.
I don't know where. Or at least liaison. Actually, we can't do the whole full Board of Selectmen because it is it's a court case. It's a confidential, but Larry has been privy to it as our liaison.
Brad, are you suggesting a letter to their council or our council or where?
I think to Larry and our council, just expressing our real concern with the pace of the process and the lack of resolution, and requesting for an update and maybe renewed effort.
Yeah.
And, just kind of a cordial letter that says, okay, this is going on, maybe a little bit of briefing on the timing and how long it's gone on. And how important this is, I think, to our role as commissioners to administer these regulations, because here's a case where, nothing's happening to a pretty serious violation. But I think that's one way to get things going again. And I'm going to be engaged the next week or two on the bog language. So if somebody wants to do that, I'd be happy to review it. But I think, I don't think I'll tackle writing it, not in the next week anyways.
Yeah, if you want me to help you with that, Amy, if you can give me dates or whatever you want me to do, I'm more than happy to work on that.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I can probably draft something by the end of the week and send it over to you for your additional comments. Does that sound good?
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Ernie, too. It's a good point. It's one of those things that are just hanging there that I think about from time to time, and it doesn't bring up good thoughts.
No.
Well, we've got time if folks want to talk about something under discussion. I don't really have any new updates myself. I think we're gearing up for a big hearing one of these days.
Waterways is
meeting in person, Amy. Could that happen in the next month or two?
I don't think in the next month or two.
Yeah.
I'll keep you updated as much as I know. It's one thing to invite the commissioners and, the Board of Selectmen are doing that. It's another thing to open it to the public. So town hall is open to the public right now, but it is by appointment only. So.
One thing to think about looking forward is that we began to do some work on docks and dredging changes to regulations, and we didn't really make too much progress. And so what I'd like to think is that once we get past this Bell's Net Bog management plan, that maybe we can find the time to start to work on that again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, FYI, I'm meeting with another person on Herring River tomorrow about dock storage. So our letter did some good.
Excellent.
Oh, the storage, not another dock.
No, but you were talking about docks, and it just got me to think about the float storage. a meeting with somebody else tomorrow to find a more appropriate place to store it, so. All right.
Any other topics? How does the frag look over Red River, John, after we did that work last fall?
Yeah, well, it is growing in again, and things have changed there, right? Just in terms of control and ownership, but I've been thinking about maybe just going down. You know, last year I ended up with a fair amount of poison ivy after our little venture, which.
Spots, but not like you.
But I'd be happy to go in there again. Actually, maybe more carefully and at low tide. I think part of what happened last year is we ended up in there at high tide, I think. Which is a little harder to deal with.
I think when we were there with Hines, it was not high tide. It was a lower tide, and it was all the same. I'd favor going back there annually, and you know, I think an hour and a half we did some good, and so let's keep it up. You know, and
okay. I'd be happy to organize an outing. I was not successful last year in getting anybody from the local pond group, people pleading poison ivy concerns. But my question about it is, what would be our objective? I mean, the most obvious thing to me was the frag growing up in the creek itself. And it would seem to me, but I don't know, Brad, maybe you have a different idea, that the priority would be trying to cut that or even eliminate it somehow, as opposed to, and maybe secondarily, trying to clear the bank some of frag. And well, I would be staying away from the poison ivy, but I don't think that's the big problem anyway, is the Phragmites, right?
Yeah, I would just say, John, the immediate goal would be to just keep the channel open for fish passage.
Right.
So it's kind of an annual manual effort to do that. You're never going to eliminate it with that process. All you're going to do is just kind of stem the tide. If you walked away for 10 years, it'd be a mess. So I think that for 2 hours of labor, you can, I think, keep that open for fish passage. And then maybe as a group, everyone considers, do you want to try something additional? But it's such a large, dense patch of Phragmites that it would probably be a very large herbicide effort to get it to replace to other plants. So,
well,
but I don't mind doing the manual effort because it's just not a lot of time. And, you know, recruit folks that don't get poison ivy, and that's fine. And, you know, I know Heinz will go down there.
Yeah, well, maybe we should organize it. I guess I would be inclined to propose a date and see who we can get on board. I don't know whether you have dates when you would be available, Brad.
I like later, after the growing season.
Yeah.
Unless there's a problem with juvenile herring getting out. But if there isn't a problem, then why not wait till it's a little bit cooler, that some of your plant growth is stopped or dying back even. And then I know some of the folks in your neighborhood might not be around, but that's probably a better time of year.
You know.
What's that?
It's different this year. There are a lot of people who've been around off season who weren't around off season last year. So I don't know. It might be different actually. So we can just give it another whirl. But my question about this is doing an herbicide approach there would be a big deal for a variety of reasons, right?
Permitting would be.
Yeah, permitting, and it would be expensive, and it would be very labor intensive. But what about just annual mowing? I mean, you just mow it all down on an annual basis. It's not going to get rid of it, but would it be a more effective control? And would it be something we could talk to the Conservation Trust about trying to get going? Or would that be a waste of time? I'm not sure.
No, I think the trust has been pretty active in management. And Brad, I don't know if you know, but they now own that parcel on the corner of South Chatham and Uncle Beanie's.
Yep.
And I think you'd have a lot of cooperation from them. You'd probably want selective mowing because there is some, not many, but some good plants in there that you wouldn't want to mow. But
well, it's only the Phragmites, at least along Uncle Beanie's. It only goes back. Oh, for a lot of the stretch there, it only goes back, I don't know, 10 or 15 feet.
Right.
And there's a lot more wetland behind that that there would be no reason to mow, I assume.
Right.
But I don't know what kind of machine it would take to mow that stuff. It's not just, lawnmowers that the highway department drives down the street.
No.
But on the other hand, with a sidebar, thing, it might be a quick thing. Does the town have machines like that?
We do have a sidearm machine. We also have pretty heavy duty brush mowers. Yeah, I could take a walk and take a look and see what we have, and talk to them and see what the town has. And
well, I'd be happy to call Mike Locke and just talk to him and tell him what we did last year and just bounce some ideas. Yeah. I'm sure he'd be open to talking about it anyway, and so I'll take that on.
Oh, good. I'm not sure, John, if it is futile. I think that what I've seen around the state is I've seen a lot of expensive herbicide treatments that fail. And so the mowing might be just something you do annually for cosmetic reasons, but you don't really get the colonization of the plants you want. So I would say, yes, by all means, explore it, but I'm just not certain if it's going to work. But I'll throw time at the fish passage issue every year, and I think you can keep that channel open. I've seen places where those channels with no effort will eventually be so dense that you can't even get fish through it. So I'd want to avoid that.
So, but Brad, you're talking about waiting until the growing season is over, but wouldn't it be preferable to go just down the channel at least like now? Because the plants are young in there, rather than waiting until they're full size and have sort of gotten more of a chance to grow. If the major concern is fish passage, I would think you'd want to do it like in the middle of the summer before things.
You could do it twice. You could do it now before it seeds, because and then you could do it once, a last cut at the end of the year. Sorry.
All right, that's a good idea because I really feel it's not a major effort. 6 people, I don't think could spend 2 hours there. If you have 4 people.
Well, we didn't spend a lot of time last year, and we got quite a bit done. So
so I'd be happy to go back in the fall. And so just let me know what you want to do. If you get a crew out, I'd talk to Amy about, her approving it administratively. I think that's how it went last time, Amy.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, but I'd be all for 2 times. And if it was so thick that fish couldn't get out from Skinnaquit, then I would want to absolutely get in there. But I don't know if that's the case. I kind of doubt it is.
Well, so my first step would be to just talk to Mike Locke since he would certainly have to be read into the thing anyway. So, and he'll probably be happy to hear that we would want to do such a thing, might have some input. So I'll talk to him and I'll send an email to the pod group, which declined to even meet this year because of COVID, but people are around, so I'll get some response. Yeah.
One of our Clover volunteers lives at the corner, lives on Uncle Beanie. She's not pond front, but she said that she's looking toward volunteering for other stuff too. So when you send it
Who is that?
for Julie Craddockville.
So she's the one on the corner of Skinnequit Lane,
Yeah.
right across from South Chatham Road there.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Right, I know her. All right.
Yeah, she's helped big time with the plovers. So she said she likes to help out. So.
Okay, well, once we get there, I'll ask you for email or let you get in touch with her or something, and we'll
Yeah, if I can help you, John, let me know.
I'll read you in. I'll let you know, Ernest.
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Anything else?
So is that a new adoption, Amy?
No, this is I'm dog sitting for this 5-pound wonder. She's very sweet. No, she was supposed to go home yesterday, but she's still here.
The long-term adoption, huh?
Yeah. No, she's not upset about it. She's pretty happy here.
They sleep with you?
No, she sleeps in her own bed.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
my dog gets along really well with her too, which is great. So, my dog's a lot bigger. All right.
Okay, well, I guess we can adjourn. It's odd to have a meeting where we don't go late, and but this one went quickly.
Still light out.
That's what I was thinking. I think this is a record.
It is. I'm not even like dying to eat. I'm not cheating. So, wow. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Then I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Well, thank you all. We'll be in touch.
Okay, good night.
Yep.
Good night.